Welcome to your Get That Nugget for GCSE English Language. Today we'll be concentrating on giving you a framework to answer Paper 2, Question 1. This session is to complement your lessons with your teachers and not to replace them in any way. A quick recap of what Paper 2 is expecting from you. You are given 2 extracts and the questions will ask you about both extracts. In the case of Question 1, we are looking to identify and interpret explicit and implicit information and ideas. And we only use one source to answer this question. So when you get to this question, you don't really need to read both of them before answering it. You only need the one extract. They tell you which one it is in the question. So just make sure that you are really clear that there are 2 sources, but for this question, you actually only need one. Okay. So the first thing we need to do for this question is we need to be really clear, as I said, about which source we are looking at. It will make sense to you as soon as you see the statements that you're given, but it's really important that you do get it from the right source. So make a quick highlight or a note of which source it is, circle it, whatever is easiest for you. And then you are only concentrating on this source. In most questions, they will give you a certain amount of lines to look at. If that's the case in the question that you are given, then underline or highlight that and make sure you only look in that section. The way the question looks is like this. They will give you some statements to choose from. You're asked to shade 4 statements that are true. Now, the way that this question is given to you, there will be some statements that may seem true, but actually are not. Be really careful with similarly worded statements. This will probably take you 1 or 2 reads through to find all 4. I think in the past, students are able to find 2 or 3 really easily, but the 3rd or 4th one does take a little bit of thinking and going back and from the text just to make sure that you've got the statements that you need. This is a 4-mark question, as you can see, and it will take you about 5 minutes to do. When you read the section of text that you need to read, and for the purposes of this video, we are using the Discoveries papers. So the excerpt that we are looking at is from Charles Darwin. You need to make sure that you have your question paper open and the text next to you so that you can go from text to answer, from text to answer. When you have got, or when you come across something you think, oh yeah, that's a true statement, what you need to do is you need to, with your pen, not your highlighter in the exam, you need to make sure you shade in the circle of the box they give you. Once you've got all 4, which again, as I said, you might need to go to and from the text just to make sure, I would also just make sure that you've read all of these before you even start to select the true one. Because it might be the case that you get down here and you think, oh yeah, that's also true. Oh no, I've made a mistake. I've done 5. Don't leave it at 5. Go back, check the text again. It might be that you need to cross out 1 just to make sure you are only left with 4. Okay? Equally, if you go back through and think, no, I've definitely made a mistake. I actually do want this one. If you circle this, that should show your examiner that actually you wanted that question. Some people will redraw the box and redraw the circle, and that's fine as well. But the computer will mark this. So it needs to be really, really clear that you are what question you actually want marked and what question you want answered. Just be really clear, as I said before, you are only selecting 4 statements. Don't think, oh, it's fine, I'll just put 5 because the 4 of them are bound to be right. If the one you've done wrong is up here, then that might cause problems for your examiner. So just be really clear, you're only looking for 4 statements that are true for this question. Some of these are, as I said before, are worded similarly, so make sure you do read all of these. And I would read these before you read the text. Some people like to do the other way around, and that's also fine. It might be that you want to read the text first and then come to these. But I would definitely recommend that you read each of these statements first before you start highlighting or selecting or shading the boxes that you think are true. Just make sure, as I said, you've got the text and the questions next to each other so that you are able to make the correspondence between both of them so that you're not confusing yourself. This is only a 5-mark 4-mark question for 5 minutes. So you do not want to be spending more than 5 minutes. This paper, because you've got 2 sources, will naturally take you longer to get through the answers. You have exactly the same time as paper 1, so you do not want to be wasting time on question 1. You need to make sure that you've done your 4 and then you move on to question 2 and then the rest of the paper. At the end of the paper, you should have some time left to come back and check answers. And if you wanted to check answers then of course go back to question 1 and make sure you've done it. I'd also recommend not leaving this question out. It can be quite tempting. Some people recommend that you answer it last or that you don't worry about it. What I would say, it doesn't really matter what order the questions you answer them in. What I would recommend though is you don't miss any questions out, especially a question like this, which is 4 marks, but 4 marks does make a massive difference sometimes, and it is an easier question. It's a question to settle you into the paper, familiarise yourself with the text, and get yourself ready for the rest of the questions. So I would not leave this question out. Just to recap what you have to do, make sure you know what source you're looking at. Make sure if they've given you the line numbers, you're aware of what line numbers you're looking for, and make sure you have the text and the statements in front of you. Read each of the statements in turn, then decide which ones you believe are true. If you make a mistake, cross through and then shade the one that you want to. If you then decide for some reason actually that was the right answer, circle back to show that that's the response that you would like to say is true. I'm going to leave you with a practice question. This paper is on the website for you to download. It's a really good paper to have a bit of practice on. Again, gives you 8 statements. You can select which are the true 4 statements, gives you the lines to look at and the source. It would be a really good idea to have a practice and give to your teacher to mark for you so that you can have some feedback.